Well, you have gardening and you have fish keeping. Why do you have to choose? Welcome back to the Small Scape. I'm Joanna, and today, yes, we are addressing gardening and fish keeping. So here are 10 things from the gardening world that, yes, you can use in the fish keeping world, and not only are you going to save quite possibly some big bucks, but you're also going to be able to get more use out of the same product and have less stuff around. So, 10 things from the gardening world that you can use in fish keeping. Number 1, yep, you guessed it, ponds. Is it from the gardening world or is it fish keeping? I mean, who has dibs on it? Both, right? Usually you see them outside. It belongs in the garden. Gardeners love ponds, right? So do we. Fish keepers love ponds. But ponds are kind of morphing. They're kind of changing these days. They're becoming smaller. You're putting them on your patio. You can put them in different containers. Even the local fish store has, I can't even tell you how many different plants that you can put in your pond. Of course, as fish keepers, we know what fish we can put in there and all that good stuff. And coming up on the channel in the next maybe like 2-3 weeks, I'm going to have some really fun pondscapes. So typically a gardener would not put a pond inside. I don't think so. But would a fish keeper? Heck yeah, we would. We would put it down the basement, upstairs, main level. Heck, I'd put it in the kitchen if Jason would let me. He'd probably let me. You never know. Number 2, what do gardeners use to stake their plants and have their, they use a stake to stake their plants, but then they attach their plants, their tree, their bush, something like that that's growing, like a tomato plant. They use a cable tie or a twist tie to attach it so it stays more upright. Well, in the fish keeping world, what do we use? We frequently use zip ties to attach anubias or other plants that don't get buried into the substrate, or we attach different pieces of driftwood together. I'm not a huge fan of zip ties because, they come in really crazy colors and that's just really hard to hide. But I don't know if you've ever seen these before. Twist ties are also really good if they're plastic. I like these. The gardeners use these as well, and you can cut it to whatever length you want. It will expose, we've exposed like that little piece of metal in there. What I like to do is cap it off with a little bit of super glue gel. Cyanoacrylate, I think is the technical name. It's perfectly fine to use in your aquarium. So I like to cap off the two ends that may expose a little bit of metal. But this is really great for attaching your anubias to your driftwood. Number 3, this is my favorite, it's fertilizer. You might be like, what are you, crazy? You can't use plant fertilizer from the garden? Use it in your tank? Well, you kind of can. Osmocote Plus. This is basically what's inside of a root tab. If you've heard of a root tab, you can get Seachem Flourish. I think that's the name. If not, we'll put it on the screen. They come in it like at the pet store. $6 for like 10 capsules. That doesn't go very long. Well, this is used out in the garden. You just sprinkle it in your planter, on the ground, wherever you're using it. But we as fish keepers like to put them in these little tiny little balls. We like to put them in a little capsule. So you just get on Amazon, you get bulk little empty capsules and you fill them with the Osmocote Plus, and bam, you've got a root tab for, I think we calculated it out once because we go through with all the tanks down here, 70 some tanks we have. I don't know, like 6 or 7 cents. I think it was less than 10 cents a piece, so that's way better than 60 cents, and you get like bazillions. We have a lot of them. And Osmocote Plus, FYI, also comes not at the Ace Hardware where I like to go to, or even at Lowe's, but they do come with these already loaded in capsules, and you save just as much money. I think they work out to less than 10 cents a piece. Number 4, another one of my favorites. It's something from the gardening world that every single gardener will have, and yes, as a fish keeper, I think you should have this. you probably know this from my video a couple weeks ago. The watering can, that's right. We can use it as fish keepers to top off our tanks, especially when you have small tanks, as I do. And I like to keep one of these around because I like to top off my tanks. The water level drops very, very quickly down here. So just a little bit every day, every other day, keeps the tanks all nice and full. And it's way easier than lugging around a bucket. And just as a side note, I found, this is my latest acquisition, Menards. I got this bucket. Look at this. It's got a nice angled little spout. And this is fish keepers. You'll know that the water will come out nice and slow, so you won't mess up your Scape as much as if you dump it in with a bucket. But this is really great, and it doesn't leak from here. It's got a nice little seal. So FYI, Menards. Number 5. Who doesn't, if you are a gardener, who doesn't want a greenhouse? I want a greenhouse. I want a big greenhouse. Greenhouse siding you can buy and use a scissor to cut it. We use this as lids in the fish keeping world because when you have as many tanks as we have, like I said, we've got 70, 80 aquariums. If you break your lid, and even sometimes glass lids are just not the best idea for all the activity that goes around here. You don't want that, especially when your assistants down here are kids. This is great, and like I said, you can cut it to any size you want. So for my funky size 2.5 gallon bookshelf tanks, you can cut it. And when you make a scape that has maybe like a pond style, it's got some driftwood, some stuff coming out from the center, the side, you can cut this to fit the tank. It's great. Number 6, I was gonna say, once again, one of my favorites because, well, basically all of these are my favorites because, like I said, I'm a gardener and a fish keeper. I can't help it. But number 6, vases and cylinders. Well, a gardener would use this probably for, well, you could use it for a floral arrangement. You could use it for succulent arrangement, a terrarium. Well, me, I would quite possibly use it for any of those, but also a water garden. Love water gardens. It's just basically an aquarium or a glass container without fish, but with plants and rocks and cool stuff. So this would be great for that. There are so many different containers that you can use. Obviously, it's just glass and it's useful for everything. Number 7, sand. We as fish keepers love to use sand. My favorite is a black sand, but I also like the neutral, like just sandy colored sand. Now, if you go to an aquatic store, your fish store, you're gonna find a bag something like this. It's about 20, 25 pounds, and they're gonna charge you about $20 or $25 for this bag of sand. But if you hop on over to the gardening world, you can go to the home improvement store and you can get pool filter sand, you get play sand, or diamond blasting sand, and it's way cheaper. You can get a 50-pound bag, very heavy, I know, but that's only like $8 versus 20 or 25 bucks. So that's a great saver. Gardeners are going to use the sand for succulents or for improving their soil, kind of aerating the soil. And we, of course, we're lucky because we can just plant our plants, our aquatic plants, right into sand. Now, number 8 is very similar to sand. It's gravel. We also use gravel, but just like sand, you're going to be paying about $20, $25 for a 20 or 25 pound bag of gravel. When you can go to the home improvement store, I went to Lowe's and got pea gravel. It's very similar. You can take a look to see what kind of color you would like. I'm sure I'll get a picture of it for you because there was no way that I was going to drag it downstairs. It's, again, I believe a 50-pound bag, but instead of $20 or $25 for 20 pounds, it was $3.28 for like 50 pounds. Now, number 9, I don't know if you get the gist here, but I did sand, and then I did gravel. Now I'm going to do rocks. That's right. if you go to the aquarium store and buy rocks, it's usually going to run you about $3.99 a pound. Well, there is no way with all these tanks here that I could go and buy the dragon stone, the Seiryu stone, and equip all these tanks with the nice $3.99 a pound rock. No, what we like to do for a lot of our tanks is we like to go to the landscaping place and buy it. Usually it works out to 30-40 cents a pound. That's where we get all of our river rocks, flagstone. They usually have a very nice selection, different sizes. And what gardener doesn't go and buy rocks? Well, we can go and buy rocks there too. Now, if you want to know how to clean them, obviously they're going to come home and they're going to be dirty. You can do it, you can clean them with hydrogen peroxide. I usually like to wash off the rocks just in water, and then we either wash it off with hydrogen peroxide, or you can disinfect it with a bleach solution, like a 1 in 10 bleach solution, just like you would in the gardening world if you wanted to sterilize or disinfect your terracotta pots. Which leads me to number 10, terracotta pots. Gardeners have terracotta pots everywhere, inside, outside, filled with plants, flowers, trees, succulents. Well, we can use terracotta pots too, and we frequently do for plecos. Little plecos love to hide in there, and they're, if you ever look at aquariums, you're going to see a lot of them there, and they're very inexpensive. Hope you liked the video today. Hopefully it gave you some ideas how to get some goodies a little cheaper. And if you're anything like me, I really like to get items that I can use in multiple different ways, to have less stuff and just to have more multi-purpose sort of supplies. So I'll see you in the next one.